So, hi everyone. My name is Tiffany Bowmaster. I'm a representative from PSECU. We are the largest digital first credit union in Pennsylvania. And I actually work out of our Lock Haven University office. I've been working with students out of there. And recently I started partnering with some of the businesses and organizations in Clinton and Center County. So I'm going around and doing financial education outside of the university space. So it's been fun. But we'll start with the first. So if you guys have a question, you can unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat. But we'll go to the first slide here. If you need me to slow down or anything, just speak up and I'll take my time. But the first slide here, so why budget? Balancing the money you make and spend isn't easy. Expenses pop up all the time and they can change consistently. You may also have debts to pay, goals to save for, and other expenses that stretch your paycheck. How can you make sure you're not spending more than you're making? This is where budgets come into play. A budget is a spending plan that tracks your income, which is the money that you make, and then expenses, which is the money that you spend. Budgets show you a few important things. First, you can see exactly how much money is coming in and how much is going out to make sure you are not spending more than you make. A budget also shows where your money is going. You may want to adjust what you're spending money on after seeing where it's going. Budgets also help you plan for the future. With a budget, you can decide how much money you like to save towards your goals. Basically, budgeting takes the guesswork and stress out of saving and spending. While you can make a budget for any period of time, we'll look at monthly budgets today. Actually, I am good. So creating your budget. So the goal of a budget is simple. You want your expenses to equal your income. So to make a balanced budget, you first need to take a look at how much you're making and spending right now. Start by writing all of your income and expenses and calculate what the difference is. So if you are following along on the budgeting activity sheet, this would be step 1 on the sheet. So I'm going to stop sharing a minute so that you can see. So I'm back on the screen here. But, where is it at? So if it would be step 1, and we're going to follow along, and we're going to go down through each of these. If you guys could see me on the screen. All right. So if you spend more than you're making, you are over budget, which means you won't have enough money to cover all of your expenses or your savings goals. If you spend less than you're making, you're under budget, which means you have money left over that you're not using to reach your goals. When your expenses equal your income, you have a balanced budget, which is the goal. So balancing your budget rarely ever happens without a plan, but it is the ultimate goal. So we'll break the process down and help you create a balanced budget that works for your lifestyle. So adding income. The first step of creating your budget is to figure out how much money you have coming in every month. So it'll be your total income. You'll want to identify your income sources or everywhere your money is coming from. These can include your primary job, your secondary jobs, any side hustles, any investment income, any gifts, bonuses, or more if you have income from any other category. So basically, it's the money coming into your pocket that is the income, and you should write it down in your budget. So the total value of money you make before taxes, that's going to be called your gross income. But this probably isn't what you're going to take home. Your income, it's subject to taxes and some deductions. So when you make your budget, you're going to want to work with the money that you actually take home after taxes or any other expenses there, or any other deductions, sorry. And that's going to be called your net income. So lastly, you're going to want to consider how often income comes in. So you don't want to spend any money before you actually have it. You're going to make sure you know when the money is coming in and when your bills are due, so you know when to actually pay your expenses. So I'll break down the slide here. So step one is you're going to want to identify your income sources. So everywhere money's coming in from. Step two, you're going to want to find your net income, which is going to be, find the net income. So the money that you take home after all of your taxes and deductions, and you're going to want to find out the frequency that you're getting paid. Since we're going to be doing this monthly, like, do you get paid, is there something that comes in every other month maybe? You're going to want to look at that a little bit different, but for this, we're going to do everything that comes in monthly. So if you're paid weekly, bi-weekly, you're going to want to get the total of that. Is there any questions so far before we move on?
I would like to ask about deductions. What exact does this word mean?
Oh,
Because I know about taxes, but I heard about deductions, but I do not really understand what is it like here in the United States.
yep. So it could be anything in your paycheck, like if you're getting your health insurance taken out, if you're getting something else taken out from your employer that is not a tax.
Mm.
Does that make sense? Or I'm going to see
Um,
if I have it on our
maybe,
budgeting.
maybe you can like give more exact examples of
An example?
deductions, like real deductions. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm going to go back to the health insurance one, but say your employer covers like 90% of, say your health insurance would be say $500 a month, but your employer is covering like 90% of that, then you would just cover that remaining, and they would take it right out of your paycheck.
Mm, mm.
So it
Okay,
would be,
thank you.
yeah, like that. If you have any like a health savings account with the employer, it would be something along those lines. But that would be, I guess, just an individual. Not everyone
Mm,
might have that as an option. Taxes
mm,
would be your most
mhm.
common. Or if you're
Okay.
getting, sorry, you're like a 401k or your IRA, it would be one of those. Would be the other
Mhm.
deductions. I was struggling to come
Okay.
up with an example there. I know them. I'm just, yeah. Is that helpful? Or I was going to say, once we take a break, I can come back with some other examples as well, and maybe um, an example of what a pay stub would be like with that coming out, if that would be helpful.
I think yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So next, we're going to go to variable variable income. So it's easier to make a budget if you have a job with steady equal paychecks. It's called a fixed income. But what about income that varies month to month? So that's going to be called your variable income, and it can be hard to predict. So sources of variable income could be like a bonus, a commission if you're doing any freelance work, if you're getting paid overtime, or any investments that you might have. All right, here. So budgeting for variable income. So there are a few different ways you can fit variable income into your budget. The first is to revisit your budget every month and adjust it based on how much income you expect and if you tend to make more or less during certain months of the year. So you can create different plans for those months. You can also save up extra income that you make during busier months and spread it out over the less busy months to average out your income to create more of a steady budget. For example, if you receive a $3,000 yearly bonus, you can put it into your savings and spread it out across over all 12 months of the year instead of just budgeting the $3,000 for 1 month. Um, you would divide that by 12, which is $250, and you would then put into the budget $250 of it every month. Another option is to estimate the range of income you expect to make in a month, then budget for the lowest amount in that range. So if you make anywhere from $3,500 to $4,000 a month, then you want to budget to make sure your needs are covered with the worst case scenario of the lower number of $3,500. It's always better whenever you're putting income in to maybe and it's variable to maybe go a little bit lower because if you have more coming in, then that's good. So next we're going to do a knowledge check. So you earned a performance bonus of $1,200 at work. Money's been tight and you can really use some extra cash all year long. How should you budget your bonus? So I'll give you a minute. You can think about it here. I don't know if you want to shout it out or I'll say the answer and then I'll go into the explanation. But the answer we have out here is going to be to spread your bonus out by budgeting to spend $100 of it every month. So a great way to even out a variable expense is just to spread the extra money, to spread out the extra money so you have a consistent amount available all year long.
A spread, you mean that do not include this money, all this amount of money in this month's budget, yeah?
Yes. So whenever
Mm.
you're spending, it would
Mm-hmm.
be safer to maybe include spending that $100 that month
Mm.
versus the full 1,200, and maybe put the remaining in a savings. So you
Mm.
still have
Mm.
access to it. It's still there, but maybe just not spend it that month
Mm.
unless you need to. A budget's it's a great guide, but it's not something. Life happens. So
Mm.
you want to have some money in savings so if something does happen you can take it out of there. But it's just a good guide to follow or a good way to also see um, maybe this is where you are today, but it's a good way to goal plan. Like maybe you want to be somewhere else in 5 years. Like this is your budget today, but maybe the life you want, it costs a little bit more money. How do you get there? Like it's just a good guidebook that's how I view it. But does that make sense with this knowledge check to spread that out so you're not spending it all at once?
Mm. Thank you.
Yep. So next we're going to go into adding expenses. So once you know what your total income is, it's time to start adding up your expenses. So this includes everything you spend your money on. So including big bills like rent, savings goals like retirement, and a pack of mints you bought from the gas station. So in general, you'll have two types of expenses. You'll have your fixed and you'll have your variable. So the fixed expenses are the same from month to month, like your rent, your car payment, your cell phone plan, your streaming services, insurance, or like insurance payments. But your variable, they're going to range from month to month. So they're going to be like your electricity bill, some of your utilities, your groceries, any restaurant expenses, and any fun money, any movies, and examples, kind of like that. So to add up your expenses, you're going to make a list of everything you spend money on. So a great place to start is by looking at your credit card transactions or your bank statements. Or if you use cash, maybe save all your receipts for an entire month so you can look back and actually see where you're spending your money. So these will show you exactly where your money is going month to month and how much you're spending. So as you're listing out your expenses, you want to separate them into categories. While the categories you use will be unique to you, you'll want to make sure you cover the big three of budgeting, which are going to be your needs, which are things that you have to have, your wants, which are non-necessary items that are still nice to have, and then your savings and your financial goals. So we like to view savings as a bill itself. So you're paying yourself to save. So you want to take that money out before you want to count it as a bill. So you're paying yourself, you're taking it out before you take the rest of the money and maybe spend it on something fun. It's just a good way to do that. So once all your expenses are listed, add them up to find out exactly how much you're spending and where the money is going. And then we're going to talk about budgeting for variable expenses. So fixed expenses can be easier to budget since they're the same every month, but what about a variable expense since it can change? So a great strategy is to write down the range that you expect to spend on that expense. So maybe look at your old bank statements or credit card statements over the past few months to see how much you typically spend. Once you have your range, you can use old statements or receipts to narrow it down to like an average ballpark. From this ballpark, you can use that number and you can put that into your budget. When you spend less than average, you can set that money aside during those months so that if your bill is a little bit more, then you do have that extra money in the future. You might also face large expenses that don't come up every month. For example, you may pay for a subscription on a yearly plan instead of paying month to month, or you may pay for your insurance once every 6 months. So how do you balance those expenses? Well, just like income, you can budget large expenses across several months to keep your costs consistent. If you know you'll have to pay $600 every 6 months for insurance, maybe budget $100 towards insurance each month so you can set that money aside in a savings so whenever it's due, you have it all ready to go. We're going to do another knowledge check. So you typically spend anywhere from $30 to $60 on clothes each month. What should you estimate for your monthly budget?
Every month, $30.
So what we have here, the answer we have is going to actually be $45, just so you're on the safer side. Because if you budget 30, since that's on the lower end, by the end of the year, it's not going to average out the same. Like say you spend 30 to 60, the average of that would be 45.
Okay.
So 45 is a safer number, just in case. It's good if you don't spend as much, but just in case you spend a little bit more, it would be safer to go with the 45. This is also something like there's going to be a learning curve to it. It's going to take time to figure out. And like I said, use this as more of a guide than where if you can't stick to your exact budget that month, but you know, you still end up with some money left over, that's okay. Like you can learn to take some from this category, put it in the other category if you want to spend a little bit more. And we'll dig into some of that as we go. So we're going to talk about some spending categories. So let's walk through some of the most common spending categories you can use in your budget. So first, we'll look at some categories that everyone will need to have, which the first one will be housing. So this includes your housing payments, your insurance, taxes, fees, or maybe any other costs that you need to keep your home. So utilities, this is going to include electricity, your phone, internet, water, gas, etc. And then food, which will be like groceries, restaurants, and then we like to include even if you like go to Dunkin' or any type of coffee runs, we would put that in the food category. So transportation, this includes any car payments, any repairs, gas, any public transportation, and then healthcare. So this includes health insurance, any copays, any prescriptions, clothing, which would be any clothes, shoes, or any other items you might need for your family. Self-care. This would be personal grooming. It could be like a haircut, any toiletries, shampoo and conditioner, any other expenses like that. And again, these are more just a guide. As time goes on, if you want to break these categories down and define them a little bit more, you can. So next, I want to think about different debt payments or any savings goals that you want to prioritize. So any debt that you have, because that's going to be a need. So this could be a credit card, it could be student loans, or any debt that doesn't fit into other categories. And then if you give to any donation, if you do any donations, or if you do give to any charity often, and you want to include that in here, this would be where you would put it. Any savings. So again, you want to view savings as a payment. So you want to do, well, your savings, it does depend on your needs. And in the end, we can talk a little bit more about savings and what's a good number for you, because everybody is going to be different in that. It's going to be what you can save. Some say 5% of your take-home pay, some say 10. It all really depends on what you can afford to put into savings each month. You'll also want to spend more, or hold on, where are we at? You'll also have wants that you want to spend money on each and every month. So the first one we'll talk about is entertainment, and this could be movies, any concerts, any subscriptions that you have, if you want to go out with your friends, or any costs for things that you like to enjoy. And then restaurants. So this could also be part of your food budget, or you can make it a separate category if you want to keep it organized. So ultimately, the categories you choose in your budget will be based on your wants, needs, and your spending habits. You'll also want to include a miscellaneous category for any expenses that don't fit into the categories that you've chosen here. And as time goes on, like I said, you can add to them, you can change up the categories just to keep you organized. Is there any questions so far with how the categories are? All right.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh, or some expense about studying or training, enhancing his skills, where we can categorize it, please.
Yep. So if you can put that in the miscellaneous, or you could add another category for that. You could even put that in self-care. If it's something that you need, you feel like you really need to do that each month, maybe put that in self-care, or create another category there for that specifically. It's just a way for you to keep yourself organized, where your expenses go and where you can actually see, like, I'm spending X amount of dollars each month in that category or on this item. So it's, yeah.
Yes, sometimes we feel good, for example, to change his car. Is it a need or
And to
payment
change what?
to change, for example, a car, or to for changing the furniture in the house?
Oh, so
It's not necessary, but it's good to
I,
do.
yes.
It's
So,
entertainment, or
that I would create a separate category for that, or maybe even put that in the miscellaneous. And if that's something, like you said, if you want to change the furniture, and because that'd be more of like a bigger purchase, you could spread that out. Like if it's something you want to save up for. So we'll get into. We still have a few, well, a good chunk more to go over, but and it might help you as we go through everything to find out where to put those.
thank you.
But yeah, you could put that in miscellaneous. You could create a furniture one. You could put it in a separate savings if it's going to be a one-time purchase each year. Maybe you want to save $100 a month because you're going to be saving up to spend money on this to furniture.
Thank you.
Yeah. So next we're going to talk about. I lost my. So we are budgeting for your savings goals. So when we talk about budgeting, your expenses also will include your savings. So even though you're not really spending the money, you still need to set it aside just like you would for any other cost. So how do you break down your goals, especially large ones like a retirement savings, into a monthly budget or like a furniture saving? First, you want to identify your savings goal. For example, you'll want to make sure you have an emergency fund that will cover at least 3 months of your expenses. And then you may want to save for college or education expenses, for retirement, for a vacation, just for family, for a home, for a car, for a wedding. So the possibilities are endless. And once you know what you want to save for, there's going to be two big factors that will determine what your monthly budget will look like. So how much do you want to save? And then how long do you want to have to save for it? So you're going to use your total savings goal and the time frame to figure out how much you'll need to set aside each month. If a goal is hard to pin down, as far as a number, you can use a percentage of your income instead. For example, many experts recommend contributing 10% of your income to your retirement account each month to stay on track. So your savings and investing goals are also a great place to funnel any extra costs that you receive. If you are ever under budget, you can also make a plan to put that extra money towards one of your goals. It never hurts to get ahead, and that's how you start building wealth. So to go back to the furniture example, so just to make it easy, we'll do it over a year time period. But say you want to save up $1,200, you'll just break that, and you have a year to save for it. You'll just break that down and set aside $100 a month. And then when that year, you know that each year you're going to want to upgrade something, you have a year to save for it, and then you have the money available. Just as an example. So next we're going to talk about balancing your budget. So now that you've listed all your income and expenses, it's going to be time to see if they add up. So odds are your expenses won't match up with your income exactly. So now it's time, we're going to balance your budget. You'll need to look at each expense and decide how much you want and can afford to spend in each category. So it's easier said than done. How do you know how much you should spend in each category? A good place to start is by trying out some common budgets recommended by experts. So we're going to talk about some common budgeting techniques. It might be good to maybe start the first few months with one of these, and then you can kind of change it as time goes on, and you might see that your needs and your wants, you want to switch up the percentages. That's okay too. So some common budgeting techniques. One of the most common expert recommended guidelines is the 50, 30, and 20 budget. With this budget, you can spend 50% of your income on needs like food, housing, transportation, and 30% on your wants like entertainment, restaurants, and then maybe the other 20% you can save that, you can do savings, goals, and paying off any of your debt. So some other budgets that we have. So it's important to budget, or it's important to note that the 50, 30, 20, it is not a one size fits all. You may need to adjust this guideline to meet your goals, just as we were talking about. So we're going to talk about the 70, 20, and 10 budget. So with this budget, you can spend maybe 70% of your budget on needs and wants, 20% on savings, and maybe the other 10% on debt, which might be good if you're trying to pay down some debt. So then the other budget we have is the 80-20 budget. So to put maybe 80% towards your wants and needs, and then the other 20% towards your savings and debt. So these are just starting points. As we discussed, you can adjust them as needed to create the budget that works for you. Does this make sense to everyone? Just to use these since they're common budgeting techniques that you can use them as a starting point?
Yes, it's good.
Good.
But I want to ask, please,
Yes.
this technique, is it applicable for each category? For example, for the needs, can we apply this principle 50, 32, 20?
For the need,
Uh,
yes. So for the needs,
yes,
they would. Oh, I was gonna say for the needs, they're suggesting that you take maybe 50% of your income and put that towards the needs. Is that what you're? Let me take this off here so I can see. There we go. Can you say your question again, please?
the technique, the common technique for the budget, 50,
Mm-hmm.
30, and 20.
Yep.
It's a technique for the whole budget.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
it applicable for the category needs also?
Yes. So the 50% would be your needs would go into the 50.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Let's go back. All right, next. So we're also going to talk about the zero-based budgeting. So this is a common budgeting strategy that's unique to you, and you can build up to this. You can build a budget that's specific to your needs and goals every month so that your income and your expenses always equal zero. This might be something that once you get a hang on how to budget, maybe this is something you can do down the road. So before a new month begins, you'll write down the specific income and expenses that you're expecting for the upcoming month. This allows you to adjust your budget based on how your needs and expenses change over time. So it's a bit more work than the other budgets, but it can help keep up with your changing life. So we'll look at how to build one. First, you're going to start with your net, which will be your take-home pay or take-home income. Then you're going to make a list of every item you plan to pay and save for in the upcoming month. So you're going to start with your needs and then the most important items like housing. And once you've listed every necessary expense you're expecting for housing, you're going to go to the other important category like food, and then you're going to keep going until all your needs and debts are covered. So next, you're going to consider your important savings goals and how much money do you need to set aside each month to meet your short and long-term financial goals, and you're going to write this into your budget. And then at this point, it's time for a check-in. You're going to take a look at how much money you've already spent on your needs and savings, and how much money do you actually have left to spend before you've used all your income. So using the income you have left, you're going to determine what you can spend on your wants or your goals that are less important to you. So this could be entertainment costs, restaurants, a vacation fund, or more examples like that. So each month, you'll also face different one-off expenses like shopping for holidays, birthdays, gifts, and trips. You're going to think about unique expenses you'll face in the upcoming month and then set aside a realistic limit for how much you want to spend on. So once all of your expenses are accounted for, then it's time to add them up and see if they equal your income. If they don't, you'll need to adjust your expenses so that your budget is balanced. And we'll take a look at how to do that on the next slide. Yeah, there's a little bit more entailed with that zero-based budgeting. So balancing a budget. So when you create a budget for the first time, one of three things is going to happen. So your expenses might equal your income on the first try, which would be awesome. But chances are you may have money left over after all your expenses are taken care of, or you may have more expenses than income. Well, what happens next? So if you have income left over after your expenses are taken care of, that's a great problem to have. You can then decide where you want to allocate the extra money. You can put it towards savings or an investment goal, or you can get ahead of some debt payments, or you can increase your spending in another category. If your expenses are greater than your income, you have two choices. You can either have an increase to your income, or you can cut expenses. So increasing your income means finding ways to bring in more money. You can pick up extra hours or shifts at work, or maybe find a side gig. Look at investments that create extra income, or you can get creative and just see different ways to rank in some money. The other option is to cut expenses. It's usually easiest to start with your wants, since some of your needs, you can't always cut those. But maybe think about entertainment, maybe cut your clothing budget, don't go out to eat as much that month, or maybe cut back on some self-care items. You'll probably find that most of your costs, both your fixed cost and your variable, can be reduced. So sticking to a budget. So this is also the budgeting sheet or activity sheet that was in there. You can make multiple copies of this, and it would be, great to do one each month. But sticking to a budget. So you've made a balanced budget. Nice. Now comes the hard part. You're going to have to stick to it. So you always need to take note of what you're bringing in and spending to make sure that you're on track. You can track all your income and expenses using many different tools and budget trackers. You can use a notebook, a spreadsheet. There's many online tools, such as you can use an app, there's different calculators, or even computer programs. So a quick internet search can help you find the right tools to make tracking your money pretty easy. There's a lot of free tools out there too. So no matter which tool you use, the process for maintaining your budget will be pretty similar. So the first one, you want to write down every source of income and the amount as soon as it comes in. And then you want to write down every expense and the amount as soon as it goes out. As you bring in income and pay for expenses, check in with your budget. As you are staying within you staying within the spending limits that you set? Do you need to adjust your spending, adjust your income, or add more income, or add limits to stay within your budget? By keeping track of every dollar coming in and going out, you can keep yourself from overspending, and you can prepare for the unexpected costs and income and reduce your financial worry around all your spending. It does take time, it takes effort, and it takes patience, but the payoff is totally worth it. You could even set, every Sunday. You're going to sit down every Sunday and you're going to go over where your money went that week. Might just be a good habit to get into, and then you can see, okay, I have X amount of money left over for the month or for the following week. This is how I want to spend it. Making it a habit really helps you stick to a budget. So what happens whenever you go over budget? So especially when all you have to do is swipe a card or press buy now, it can be very easy to go over budget without even realizing it. It can happen to anyone. And even the most well-planned budget, it cannot account for everything. Life's always going to throw something at you. But don't worry, you can prepare for this. Your first option is to build a buffer fund in your bank account and set some money aside to use it in case this does happen. Think of it as like an emergency fund or just your extra spending. This is also a great place to put income during the months when your expenses are less than your income. If you don't have the extra savings to create a buffer fund, you'll have to look at the rest of your budget and find places to cut back. This may mean buying cheaper groceries, maybe driving less to cut back on gas, traveling less, just finding other ways where you can cut some costs. So maintaining your budget. So even after you find the perfect budget for you, chances are your income and expenses won't be exactly the same every month. This is why no matter which budgeting method you choose, you'll want to review your budget each month and adjust it to match the income and expenses you're expecting over the next month. So depending on your situation, adjusting your monthly budget can be pretty quick. If your income will stay the same, you can just focus on your expenses. So which categories will stay the same? Where do you expect expenses to change? Do you expect any one-time expense this month? You'll also want to reconsider your budget when your financial goals change. So for example, when you save enough in your emergency fund, you'll no longer need to set money aside for it. So can you funnel that money towards another goal? And on the other hand, if an additional goal comes up, you'll need to readjust your budget to make sure you can meet this new goal while still meeting your other needs. So we'll have a knowledge check after this, and then we can answer some questions. And then I'm going to go over the budgeting sheet with you, and we'll go over some terms. So for the knowledge check, so what are some ways your financial institution can change, what are some ways your financial situation can change that would impact your budget? We're just going to go into some examples. Oh, they didn't have the examples on the slide. So some answers are, you can change, if you change your job, say you're going to get married, say you're starting a family, you're getting a pet, saving for retirement, saving for college, buying a house, planning a purchase like a new car, or some medical expenses. So there's endless possibilities, but you can use this time. Oh, yeah, you can take this and maybe redo your budget, start a new, just start a new budget, maybe adjust things, but just take time to look into your budget. All right, I'm gonna turn this off, and then we can ask any questions. I don't know if you guys want to take a break before we actually go over what, I'll pull this up on the screen, and we can actually go down through what a budget looks like, what the budgeting activity sheet looks like. Do you guys need a 5-minute break at all before we do that? Or do you want me to go into that, and then that'll help answer some of the questions too. Okay. I'll pull it up, and we'll go into that here. So I'm not sure if everyone had a chance to print this out, but it's a little bit easier to go down through the presentation if you have this budgeting sheet here. Because at the top on the first section there, you're going to want to put monthly, since you could do weekly, monthly, quarterly. Monthly is what we talked about today. And if you have questions during this, just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask them. But I think this will help. But step 1 here, this is where you would put all of your income. You're going to put your variable income, your primary income, all of that right into here. And then you would get your total. You'd get your total right down here. And you're going to go in, and step 2, you would list all of your expenses. So you would do your mortgage or your rent, your utilities, any renters or homeowners insurance, internet, cable, cell phone, any other expenses that you have. Some other budgeting sheets, they will have these, you might have a separate category for internet, cell phone, cable. They might have, instead of 1, they might just have 3 more there. But you would add that up, put that in the total housing expenses there. And then you're going to go to the next box. And you would do groceries, maybe restaurants, clothing and shoes. So I guess I should have went over this in the beginning. The first time you do this, it might be a good idea to go off of the previous month, so you have a good idea going forward on what to spend. Maybe go through or do an average of possibly the 3 months prior, because some of these will change. And that's what we spoke about on the variable expenses slide down here for groceries. So maybe get the average, like I said, of the past 3 months and put that in here. Restaurants, clothing, shoes, household items, and then any, hair, beauty, hygiene services, and other. And put that in here. At the end, you will add it all up. But right now, you just worry about each category separately. So any health insurance premiums, if they're not already taken out of your paycheck, that would go in here. Any prescriptions, any co-pays, any other appointments. So transportation, if you have a car payment, you would put that here. Any insurance payments. And then this is where they were saying if you do pay your insurance premium, say every 6 months, you would break that down to what that would be monthly. So you would say you pay $600 every 6 months. You would then put $100 in here. And then gas, any car maintenance, public transportation, parking tolls, etc. And then any credit card payments. If you do just the minimum, you could put that. But if you usually pay, if you're not paying it off each month and you keep a balance on there, if you maybe start with the minimum payment on here, but if you do make more than the minimum payment, which is good, I would put that in here, what you actually do normally pay. Any tuition or any student loan payments, other debt that you might have. Right here, if there's a consistent charitable donation or gift that you normally pay out monthly, I would put that in there. And then any other payments. Savings. So, and then this is where you can start setting your savings goal. Like say you have a goal, how do they break this? So you have that furniture goal. We'll say of the $1,200, you're going to put the goal right here, just put $1,200, and then monthly, we talked about putting $100 towards that. So you're going to put that right in there. This is for emergency savings, but say you would put that furniture we talked about right here. Then you could do, this gives you a spot to put up to 4, but if you have another one, just put it down there. So, and then other here. So entertainment, if you have any child care, any pet care, or another expense, you can go ahead and put that right here. And then you're going to get your total expenses down here. This bottom category is going to be all of the above. So you're going to go through and take the total monthly expense from all of these. You're going to add them up. And you're going to put them right here to the total monthly expenses. And then down here. So this is going to help you. So now you're going to compare. So what is your total income and your total expenses? And then you're going to see. So are you over budget? Are you under budget? And then that'll help you there. At least the first time. That's where you might have a lot of adjusting. So is there any questions on this worksheet here? It's a good guideline, but like I said, there is other, if you prefer a different layout, if you prefer a spreadsheet, you can use that as well. So we have that. Would you guys like to go over, so I also have just a little budgeting quiz that we can talk about, and I have some of the budgeting key terms. Do we want to do, if there's no questions to this point,
Yes, Excuse
Yeah,
me.
what's your question? Yep.
Yes, I have a question, please.
Yes.
Uh, this is budget sheet. Is it acceptable for business, small business, or just
So
for people?
I, since you're going to have some different expenses when it comes to a small business, I would use I would use a different sheet for that. And that is something you should be able to find. Just do a quick Google search and you should be able to find one online. Um, is there a category, because I know every small business is different. Looking through that, was there categories that you feel like would be
Yeah.
helpful for your small business, or you
Uh,
probably have a
uh,
lot of other categories?
yes. So
Yeah.
the categories must be adaptable to the
Yes.
nature of the business.
Yes. The same
Thank you.
principles, yeah, the same principles still apply. You're still going to want to take your expenses. Or you're going to want to take, how much you bring in for the income minus your expenses to get your total. The same principles do apply, but your categories are going to be very different. And I
Thank you.
imagine your expenses are going to be, yeah, they're going to be very vastly different, but same principles will apply to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then I will leave my contact information. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. I can get on the phone with you. I can talk you through it. We can Zoom if it's something that I need to see to help you with. So
Excellent.
we're gonna go, yeah. So we're gonna go here, and we're gonna go through a little quiz. Let me find my answer key. All right. So the first question we have here. So say your income is $4,500 a month. Your expenses include housing, which will be $1,500. Your food and family needs, $1,500. Your wants and your fund money, $700. And your savings, we're going to say $1,000. So what can you do to balance your budget? And I'll give you a minute to look at that, and then we'll go over the answer.
Balance, reduce food, fun.
So the math we have here. So when you add it all up, the total is going to be $4,700. So you're going to be over by $200. So that's how we come up with answer B. But I do, my answer does differ a little bit from what they have here. So the $200 I agree with, but I would say maybe take it out of fund money instead of food and family. But the important part there is, you're over by $200 and you just need to take it out of a category. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. So then the second one here. So you need a new pair of shoes unexpectedly, and you went over your clothing budget for the month by $40. What can you do to adjust? Actually, I'll read them to you too, actually. So A, we have use your emergency savings to cover the extra amount. Maybe B, you could take out a short-term payday loan. C, you could reduce your spending by $40 in another budget category to cover it. Or D, there's nothing you can really do once you go over budget. So the answer we have here would be C. You want to reduce your spending by $40 in another category to cover it. That's a good answer. So we would go against A because using your emergency savings to cover the extra amount, we want to use that for an emergency unless you really are low on the money, we would say to try to lower your expenses in another category. And then B, it says to take out a short-term payday loan. We always advise against that. That would be an absolute last resort because the interest rate on a payday loan is very, very high. You could end up paying $140 for that $40 short-term payday loan. Just not a good idea. And then D, how it says there's nothing you can do once you go over budget. Not true. There's a lot you can do. So yes, C would be the best answer there. And then number 3, so your income is $4,000 a month. How much should you plan to spend to balance your budget? So the answer we have here would be B, exactly $4,000, because we view savings as a bill. So if there is any money left over, it should go into savings. It's kind of a tricky question because it says how much do you plan to spend, but that's because we view savings as a bill. And then 4, so you earned a performance bonus of $1,200 at work. Money's been tight, and you could really use some extra cash all year long. How should you budget your bonus? And the options would be A, you can spread your bonus out by budgeting to spend $100 of it each month. Or B, you want to plan to spend the entire $1,200 in the month that you receive it. Or C, you should not include the bonus in your budget since it's variable income. Oh, we only have 3. Thought we had 4. So the answer that we have here would be A. You want to spread your bonus out by budgeting to spend $100 of it each month. And then you would just take that remaining $1,100 and put that into savings. Okay, we have a few more to go through. Is there any questions so far with that? Okay, we'll go down here. So you make anywhere from $200 to $400 a month from your side business. You budget for $200 a month. What happens if you make more than $200? And the options are A, you should make a plan for how you'll spend the extra money you make. B, you shouldn't make a plan for the extra money since it's not guaranteed. Or C, you should always budget for $400 a month instead of $200. And the answer that we have is A. You should make a plan for how you're going to spend that extra money if you do, in fact, make that extra $200 a month, even if that plan is just putting the money in savings. Or if you want to treat yourself that month, you earned it. You earned an extra $200. So 6. You pay $9.99 for a music streaming service every month. Is that a fixed or is that a variable expense? So we have here that it is a fixed expense because that $9.99, it should not change month to month. It should stay the same. And then 7, you typically spend anywhere between $30 and $60 on clothes every month. What should you estimate for your monthly budget? Which I know we went over this in the presentation, so I'll go to the answer. But you should use an average of $45 to keep your budget consistent. Then if you spend less, great. If you spend a little bit more, maybe you can take it out of one of the months that you spent a little bit less in. Because all that extra money should always go into the savings. So Zoe's goal is to save and invest money for education expenses. Using online calculators, she decides she wants to have $20,000 saved over the next 5 years, or 60 months. Which strategy should Zoe try? And the options are A, to save $334 every month, which would be $20,000 over 60 months, or B, don't include this in her budget, but funnel any extra money she receives towards that goal. C, aim to save less money now and more money later. She'll probably make more in the future anyway. D, don't include any of this in her budget since it's a longer term goal. The answer would be A. So since that's $20,000 is a lot of money. So if you can spread that out over 5 years and save the $334 every month, that's a very attainable goal in the next 5 years. So question 9. What is the ultimate goal of a zero-based budget? So this one here, we're just going to go into the answer, but it's going to be A. It's going to be for your income minus your expenses to equal 0. And that is happening also because you're using savings as a bill. So any extra money, you're going to put that into savings. And then 10. So you bought a hot tea today, but it was only $2.50. Do you need to include that in your budget tracker? So I'll go over the options here. So option A, yes, you do need to include every expense in your budget, even if it's small. And then option B is nope, since it's under $5, you won't need to include it in your budget. And the answer is actually yes, because you need to include every expense in your budget, even if it is small and only under $5. That way, because $5 can add up very quickly. If you're going, 5 times a week, that really does add up, and that could be maybe where all your money is going and you don't even realize it. So you want to track every expense. So is there any questions so far here? Or if you want to dive into any of this deeper, we can do that. I'll go back up to the top here and we'll scroll down. You need to look at the questions again. And then all of this, I think it was emailed to you too. And if you have a question later on, like I said, you can always email me. I'd be happy to go into it deeper. It's a lot of information to take in. And then I'll show you some key terms that we have. But I'll scroll down through it so you can see it on your screen here. And would you guys like me to read each of these, or is there any glancing at it that you have a question about?
Does anyone have any issues with any particular terms?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone here should have gotten that in their email inbox.
Okay.
So
It's good. It makes sense.
Good. Okay.
Yes,
And like
we
I said,
can
if there,
review it.
perfect.
We can review it in house.
Perfect. It's a little harder to do budgeting over Zoom, but I think if you do, maybe I can come in person once you guys do this on your own a little bit, and we can even go over and dive deeper into it. You could bring in your own budget and we can go over it together. That might be really helpful.
yeah, I think that this was really helpful. I learned a few things, and so
Good. Okay.
yeah, I thought that was cool. Is there a good way for them to contact you?
Yep. So do you want me to put that in the chat here, or I can email it to you if you want to send it out to them?
Both would be great, I think.
Okay.
I'll definitely
Perfect.
send a wrap-up email after everything, but if folks want to shoot you an email right now rather than waiting for my email to then respond to you, that could be helpful.
Perfect. So yep, I'll put my email in the chat here because this is going to be my PSECU email, and then I'll put our office number. And if I do not answer it, I will get a voicemail and I'll call you right back. But yes, so my email there would be tbomast@psecu.com. And then the phone number would be 570-893-4416. And yeah, I'd love to come in person. Maybe we can do a follow-up on this. We can talk about credit. That's a fun one too. Might not be as long. Well, it could be. There could be a lot more questions.
Yeah, I would love to have you do more financial literacy workshops.
Yeah, that'd be so fun. Yeah. But yeah, there's no other questions.
Selena, do you
Are
have a question?
muted?
You have to unmute yourself, Selena. It should be on the screen, in the far left bottom corner.
Yes. I have a question, Tiffany.
Yes.
I don't know, it's linked to this. It says it's over. If over budget, you need to find, maybe I need to find another job to replace the over budget. So means I have two jobs. It means,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's legal. It's legal in the USA.
To have two jobs?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
because if over budget, I have to work hard to get the another job to compensate for this.
So that we can get a little bit creative there. That might be something where maybe you and we can get together and we can go over your budget together, and we can see what your options are, because it depends, like how much over budget are you? Is there somewhere where we can, lower those expenses? It would be something we'd have to look at, because if you already have two jobs, that's a lot of time. So I don't know if you would have time to add another one. But it would be something we could look at.
Yes, I just because at this moment, if I have another job, it will be illegal in the USA.
To have a third, or
Selena, with your work visa, I think it depends on the status of your work visa, depending on if you can get a second job or even a third job. And so that might be a question for your visa portal rather than Tiffany. So,
Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Yes, but we could look at where your budget is today and look at
Mhm.
your expenses and look into it that way. And then, yeah, you could work with with the visa people and see what you're allowed to do there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'd be happy to meet with you, even one-on-one, and we can go over it if that would be helpful.
Okay.
And even if we want to do these in person, maybe I can, my schedule opens up a lot in the summer because I'm not on the Lock Haven University campus at that time. So maybe I can even plan a chunk of the day and come up. And if anyone wants to come in, we can go over it.
yeah, thank you for that. I can
Yeah,
gauge
definitely.
interest and set that up. So,
Awesome. But yeah, if there's no other questions, I was going to say you guys can reach out to me. We'll do a follow-up and just reach out with any other questions.
It's very good. I would like to thank you very much, Tiffany, and thanks
Yeah.
Ashley. Thanks the council for
Yeah,
this
thank you.
to provide this opportunity to meet you.
Great. Yeah. And thank you guys
Thank
for
you very
listening.
much.
Yeah. Thank you. And have a great day, everyone.
Yes,
Have a
you
good day
too. Have
too.
a great day. A great
All
day.
right. Bye-bye.